evening, everyone. Welcome to the January 30th, 2024 New Year APA board meeting. I hope everyone's doing well, enjoyed their holiday season, and now we're back into a new year and a new process, and we're excited about this and what's coming on this year. So we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order at 6:03 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. First thing on the agenda here is our Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll take a moment of silence at this time. All right, thank you. All right, first thing on the agenda is the approval of the agenda for this evening. If I can get a motion to approve the January 30th, 2024 agenda.
I'll move that one item up on that.
Oh, yes, thank you. Thank you, Beth. Thank you for that. First, if we can put amendment, Jill, we're talking about moving up the collections and bad debt from new business all the way up into the financial report category, so we can discuss that with Beth. Amanda on the call.
Yeah, Beth and I and Andrea discussed.
Andrea, sorry. We moved it up, we're okay?
Yeah.
All right, so we'll bump that up. So can we go ahead and put a motion to approve with the edit and the amendment of moving up the collections and bad debt to the financial report section for the agenda this evening?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with the amendment of moving the collections and bad debt up to financial report. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Beth, for reminding me. All right, next thing on the agenda is public comments. Do we have anyone signed up for public comments?
No.
All right, thank you. Next on the agenda is the approval of the minutes that were distributed. We can get a motion to approve those minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the last.
Yeah. If I make a correction here, they are the board minutes of November 28th of 2023 board meeting. And I believe I already have a motion.
I'll be glad to second that. I checked it over prior to the meeting starting.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you, everyone, for that. All right, next thing on the agenda was the CEO report that was distributed out. I think that was just distributed out a few minutes ago, and now it's also on their board goals well there too. I'll have folks just go through it for a few minutes here, and then we can go forward from there. on here. I need a motion to approve the January 30th, 2024 CEO report.
I will make a motion that we approve that report as submitted to us.
I'll second.
Thank you. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Under the agenda item, under transportation, it looks like part of the paragraph is cut off. It says, given how many miles are on the bus and how many repairs we have, and there's nothing. Is this the bus that's decommissioned?
Yeah, we can discuss it with the new business, and I can go back and make sure
Okay.
there's the updated one with it. I'm not sure what happened.
Thank you, Michelle, for that. Any other further discussion besides this amendment? I will plan to amend that CEO report later on with also the additional news under new business, and we'll once we discuss that later, so we'll keep that in mind as well there too. If not, we'll go ahead and put it to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you for that. All right, next thing, all right, we'll go ahead and get started here with our financial report. First, we'll go ahead and put in category, and then we will add category C as the collections and bad debt. So, Dave, I'll turn the floor to you for the financial report for our board treasurer report, and then our monthly financials for November 2023 and December 2023.
Right, we do have 2 months actual to discuss, November and December. Everybody should have a copy of, I guess you could call it my script or notes, cheat sheet, whatever. I tried to blow it up here on Google to make it easier for us to read, but we can just sort of all follow through that together here. We start always with looking at what our latest projection for our year-end results will be. And in this case, we have actual data through the end of the calendar year, 12/31. And it looks like that our total income for the year will be $11,178,000 some dollars. And total expense, $11,647. And that, since expense is greater than income, and this is, of course, on a cash basis, this would project to a $469,716 cash net income loss. Ending cash balance, if that number were to hold, would put us down below 500,000 at around 461,000. In our discussion here, I'll mostly try to round the numbers off. If you need exact numbers to the penny, it's in the various reports here that we have been given. And then we compare that with the last time that we were together as a board, which was at the end of November. And at that time, we were looking at actuals through the end of October. And so what we see is looking at how have the projections changed from then to today. We've increased income about $156,000, which that is very good. And perhaps unfortunately, we have also increased our projected expenses a little bit more, $165,000 some dollars. And so that actually increases our cash net income loss to rounded up to $470,000. And then as we read across my columns here, I do have a column comparing our projections with our 23-24 budget. And I do have a note there, shaded there to catch everybody's attention. You see that our budgeted expense was, well, let's see, our projected is $918,000 higher than what our original budget was. Now, I highlight that because we've already discussed that, and Jill has outlined that in her CEO reports. And we know that trying at this point to compare actual projected with our budget is a little bit futile because you remember the bleachers and the computer purchase for which we loaned, or had a loan of about $337,000. And then we purchased 2 buses, a new one and then a used one. Those total about $84,000. And for various reasons, which I don't want to get into, those were not included in the 23-24 budget. So in the case of the loan, we got the money last year and spent it this year. And then in the buses were bought straight out of cash, but those were not on this budget either. I was thinking there's 1 or 2 more items, but at any rate, we'll just ignore that budget to actual comparison on our year-end results. Okay, then going down the column here, let's see, I got this divided into thirds. The year-to-date service coverage ratio. That is based on, we've talked about that a lot too in the past, that's based on accrual results. And what we focus on here in our board meetings, of course, is our cash basis, because that's what our budget starts out with for the new year. Now, the bank tells us that at the end of the year, we should have a ratio of 1.25. And I questioned everybody, this coverage ratio is on a cumulative year-to-date basis, and we don't try to forecast that. Can be done, but it's a little cumbersome. So right now, we're looking at 0.93. Last meeting, we were at 1.07. And then that raises in my mind the question, if we're projecting a $470,000 cash loss, do we think at this point that we may have problems meeting the 1.25? I don't know yet. It may be too early to draw any conclusions there, but that's one thing that we always want to keep an eye on. And if we don't think we're going to make it, we've always told the bank, as soon as we know for sure, we'll let you guys know on that. But we'll just keep an eye and see how that progresses. Healthy,
Just on that, just so
sure,
you know,
jump right in.
the average though is 2.2, and we have had to look at that because part of it's the timing of when we receive grants.
True.
And we spend the money, and sometimes a lot of our reimbursement grants, we may have a large expense out there, which then decreases your amount, which then creates your coverage to be less. So that's why that they've looked at the 4-year average because of that. So
Oh, the bank has agreed to focus on that too then.
Yes.
Well, that's good, very good.
Yeah,
And
yeah, we've had to look at that, so we do that every time now, that's why it's on there.
Right, we may make it too, I don't want to be an alarmist,
Oh,
but
no, I'm not saying that, I'm just putting that out.
that one is a little tricky because it goes up and down and you can go right into the year end thinking you got it made, and then, like you're saying, something happens right at the very tail end because mostly of the timing differences, sink us, so, okay.
And I will interject that part of that service challenge is literally the bank's action by deciding to fund us on the 30th of June for expenses from this year. That's what
Right.
is impacting it, and that is their operations.
That's
So
true.
Right.
they're in this with us.
We came when they called to close that loan, yeah.
Still a very odd situation.
Okay, and there's several places here where it's very obvious for questions or answers to jump in anytime, so feel free to do that here. We know now that our actual health expense, after everybody's signed up or not signed up, is about 70%, 77% of what we actually budgeted for. So that was a savings of about $162,000. And then substitute expense, let's see, at the end of the calendar year, about 100,000 even. We budgeted 119,000. And I think in my pre-meeting report, I thought, gee, if we've already hit 84% and we haven't even gotten into January, February, we may exceed that. We'll just have to see on that. And then we will be talking about a longtime favorite, our total outstanding collections. I've got the numbers, I dropped those in, but we'll deal with that here in a little bit later. Then the middle section, I asked the question, what has changed from our year-end projections at the last meeting and this one. So I just kind of jotted down the things that jumped out at me. The first thing that I thought was, at our last board meeting, in the November CEO report, you had a list of items, some were increases, some were decreases, that had not been included in our cash flow spreadsheet to date. Now, let's see here. Have I got I don't want to rehash all of those, but anyhow, if you calculate it, what it should do is it should reduce a $460,000 loss down to about $250, I think. So I'm asking myself now, if all of that stuff has been included in the latest December spreadsheet, why are we still showing a $470,000 cash loss? So I guess my question would be, is everything on that list, have we got that included in our numbers? Or perhaps not? Looked like there were several grants.
We don't have the safety grant, and that's only 25, which is pretty immaterial on $11 million
Right.
budget.
Mhm.
The other items are in there that we've already accounted for in the projections and everything.
Okay.
We made the adjustments.
Mhm. Okay.
And then you talked about like the special ed, it's a 2-year grant. I mean, again, it's not $10,000, so again, it's somewhat immaterial.
Yeah.
If you add that to 25.
Mhm.
It's a 2-year grant. We never spend all of it, so it's not something that we always include everything in there because we know it's gonna carry over, so it's not gonna match up against what our expenses are, so that's not exact.
Yeah, those aren't large amounts for sure. Okay, I think the CEO report was claiming, there's several different ways you can add this up. I think it comes out a net 207,000 improvement on our cash loss. But you're saying that every item except maybe one or two of the small grants is in there.
Correct.
Okay, then that raised, in my mind, and have that raised the next question, well, if that is all in there, how come we haven't been able to cut it? So I guess then to answer that, we'd have to
Well, I mean,
look
again,
elsewhere.
237,000 of it, the cash that carried over. I mean, that's a big portion of that difference in that cash. Bottom line is that 237 that we carried over. I mean, that's over half of it.
Okay, what do you mean carried over?
337, I'm sorry, the 337 that we received from the bank,
Mhm.
that's over half of what the difference is because we received that last year and weren't aware, and then we had to do the expenses this year. So that's
Okay,
Right,
it's
and then we also,
337 of that, 480,000.
we've got
okay.
like the 79,000 from that bus,
Mhm.
that was last year.
So that pretty much explains where the difference is.
Okay, good,
And that's not gonna be something that we're gonna be able to cut to make up.
great,
That's just gonna have to be how it is, just
Mhm.
the circumstance.
Correct.
okay, well, I'm glad to clear that up then. Let's see, that leads me then to, I guess, the next thing that puzzles me. What was we had another transfer entry, which for the month of November did affect both income and expense when you totaled everything up. What was the nature of that? It was from a Star Bank to...
Transfer between banks, and basically, the net effect is zero, but just for
Right.
transparency, just so you can see money coming from one account to another, is why we put it in there.
Okay.
But the net effect has no effect on the month. Unlike that other one with the payroll, and again, that's out of our control because
Mhm.
the payroll happened in, let's say, October, I don't remember which month it was.
It's the end of
October,
August.
And it came
yeah,
out in September, so we have to report it because it comes out of the bank, but then the next day, it's fixed, but, you know,
Right.
it crosses between months.
Mhm.
This one, literally, we transferred from one checking account to the other because of cash, and then it was, you know, then we're fine, but it's still, the net effect is zero.
Okay, yeah.
And as an explanation for why we
Yeah,
have
because we
multiple
don't
banks,
do business in their bank.
we do,
We
those
do?
are our banks,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So we have the Star Bank account, which is
Mm-hmm.
here, we have our First Financial. First Financial pulled out, when it was main source, pulled out of Anderson.
Oh.
They're not in Alec anymore, they're nowhere within our range, I think the closest might be Newcastle. And that's a long way for us to travel to make a cash deposit.
Yeah.
So we get a lot of cash, right, from fundraisers, and like events, all that, and so we have a local account with Star
Oh, okay.
Financial, which is where we do all of our cash deposits. And so once we get to a certain point, we have to transfer that money over into our First Financial account.
I see, okay. Now, yeah, I tell my service club, I'm treasurer there, you guys keep voting for a one-eyed treasurer. So, I thought I read your footnote as going from Star Bank to First Federal. Did I misread? That's what threw me. Yeah, it should have been first. Okay, well, that solves that real quickly then. Hopefully, I'm not the only one that stumbled over some of that. And we talked about our ratio. Let's see here. Yeah, looking then at the projections, total income, we increased that by 156,000, which is good. I thought expressing why in terms of winners and losers might be a little easier to read and to summarize here, but our big winners seem to be, we got higher state tuition because of our higher ADM count to the tune of 85,000. Our smaller grants, we collectively came in with about 45,000 more. And then, of course, we got a little bit higher textbook reimbursement from the state, almost 30,000 more. And then, of course, everything was impacted by the 50,000, which we just talked about. Total expense then, we unfortunately increased that by 165,000, so that's why our cash loss is still holding there. And the biggest loser that I could see was the outside cleaning services. For the whole year, you guys in December footnoted that you were increasing the expense, I think it was 183,000 up to 300 something, an increase of 155,000. And I noticed in-house maintenance and janitorial was like 6,500 higher. So apparently there wasn't like switching everything from in-house to out-of-house or whatever. Do you want to say anything about that now? Because that comment that was the only thing that leaped out at me. It's unusual.
We'll make limited commentary on that
Okay.
because we have personnel going on extended medical leave or personnel dealing with another extended issue that's required us to buffer some of that.
Yeah,
So
sure.
that's kind of where we're at on that. In a couple months might have a different perspective on where those finances land, but that's
Okay.
where we're at.
And we just have to keep an eye on that then. Let's see. And of course, I think everyone noted that in November, December, then we did take out that 70,000 reimbursement for the JROTC program, which of course we don't have. Okay, now finishing up here on the bottom third. Let's see, we've got, we'll start with November's. And I've got two lines, one is actual, one is budgeted, and you can see total income expense. The original budget for November showed us having about a $34,000 net cash loss, and we were able to turn that into 471 positive addition to our cash balance. And that left us with ending cash of $517,000 some dollars. Now, on an accrual basis, that would translate into $115,000 loss, actual net income loss for the month. Now, and let's see, very end here, that means that our total income for November was $78,000 over budget. That's always good. Of course, the 50,000 does enter into that, so that maybe makes it not quite as good anyhow, but that's a technical detail. And then the budget, let's see, total expense then was 50,000 under budget. In other words, we cut some costs, so that's very good. Now, winners and losers, let's see. Well, we got more federal special ed than we thought we would, about 30,000 more. We got more state tuition, which is good. We got more summer, about 14,000 more in summer school, which is now a one-time payment during the year, so those things are all very good. Let's see here, and going to expenses, 18, I have divided everything into 20 expense accounts or subcategories. And 18 out of the 20 actually had less than budget, and that's always good. The amounts were not, there was no real large amounts in any of those. The big thing, I think, was utilities, mostly our electric usage for both months and for the whole year, 28,000 under budget, so that's very good. And water and sewage was less, and in November, natural gas was a little less. Now, our losers, let's see, well, the teacher performance grant, we had hoped for 35,000. That was, I think, awarded to everybody in December. We got it in November. We actually got 31,500, so that was a little bit less. I wouldn't call that a loser, but anyhow, let's see, I think that was, that's the one time we get that every year, so we didn't want to mention that. And then again, outside cleaning, which we just talked about, was 20,000 some over budget. Okay, then moving on to December, again, actual versus budget, we budgeted about an $82,000 cash loss for the month, and actually got it down to about 16,000. And we did have ending cash of 501,000 some dollars. And on an accrual basis, that translated into about $32,000 loss. It's hard to compare those numbers because they're usually, if one's real high, the other's lower. But anyhow, we do present that as part of our presentation. So in December, we had 154.7 thousand over budget, which is very good. And we were, still though, we were about 89,000 over budget, which sort of kept us, I guess, from breaking even, let's say. Now, the winners and losers, of course, students don't have to pay the textbook fees. There may be a few minor ones, I think we pick up, not many. The total was 133,378, and I think we budgeted about 103, and you said you thought we would get more. Is that a one-time, or are we going to get any more, do you think?
That is one time a year.
One time a year, and there's no chance of getting a little bit more, you know? Okay.
Now, basically, what they do, part of why it's kind of a delayed distribution, is there is a state allocation and the legislative budget, and then basically what they're supposed to do, no matter where the students attend or anything like that, they're supposed to take the official count of enrolled students on October 1st, and then divide that allocation by that, and then that's the distribution to give to all of us. And so it's not even a case where, let's say, you know, Anderson Community Schools is getting a larger per pupil amount than we are all getting the same. This is one of the, yes, we should say, most equitable funding formulas that they have used. And when we were doing the budget, they had been talking about doing about the $150 per student or something of that nature. I have trust issues, so we under budgeted because we didn't know what was going to happen or if they were going to go back and reinterpret their legislation, because it does seem, it's in some cases, right, if you're looking at one of the schools where, let's say, a student that's taking a ton of AP and dual credit classes and they have to buy really expensive textbooks, right? 150 is not even, but that's almost
Yeah,
an
get your
entire book,
paperback
right?
version anymore, yeah.
Maybe, but then, schools in our case where we're not getting the textbook fees from families and those things, given a lot of different circumstances, right? That 150 for us is like, wow, fantastic, right? And so that I do anticipate the legislators maybe taking a look at that not this session because they can't really adjust money, but going next biennium to look at it.
Now, do you think that will cover all of our costs? I know I read a lot of newspaper articles, everybody's saying, they still end up out of pocket to us, maybe.
Well, and one of the things for us to kind of look at it, we have been a digital-based school for a very long time, and part of that is because you can't really afford textbooks, to be honest, right? To do a textbook refresh, within a 6-year period or something, we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars per content, per grade level, when everything's said and done. For us, we buy our computers, and then we have our digital curriculum, software subscriptions and those things. We're still spending a lot of money on that. However, we have a consistent fee pretty much every year, and let's say something happens in history, right? Our content is updated immediately, whereas you have to wait for a 5-year, 6-year renewal cycle. Having textbooks, in some cases, classes do really well with that, teachers would really prefer it in a lot of cases, but it's not something that's really cost effective for us to be able to
Now,
do that.
is textbook and software, is that sort of like synonymous today?
Right now, yes, but there also are still like the hard copies textbooks that are being used. We do have some classes that have like small class sets of different type of materials, but there are also a lot of textbooks now that are e-textbooks, and so the concept of textbook rate is kind of relative to what you're doing. Our kids, this computer is most of their textbook load, and then whatever the software we access on that. We have been fortunate over the last several years to be able to use a lot of grant funding to pay for our curriculum or to prepay expenses 3 years in advance, so that we're not hit with a huge bill, right? We've had to be very strategic on that and evaluate what software / textbook are we using that is truly moving the needle, or is something we purchased this, it's not working. One of the biggest problems that we are going to see within the next 18 months deals with the science of reading. So the state has basically gone to a mandated reading curriculum for K through 5. They told us last year, anybody going through a textbook adoption cycle, you need to pause, do not enter into long-term contracts, be careful what vendors you use, because we are going to give you an approved vendor list, and that's it. And so that's part of why we joined the Lit Cadre earlier. We opted in their first,
Now, we got some money, was it in December?
Yeah, they are helping fund our instructional coaching position, which was also another bonus. Why not take some money? But it let us see what was coming down the pipe for us. So with the Lit Cadre, they actually purchased some reading curriculum for us. It's called Amplify. And we saw the writing on the wall and said, going into this school year that we're currently in, we're going to go ahead and buy that curriculum K through 8, because if Lit Cadre, which is sponsored by DOE and U of I and funded by Lilly, right? If they're saying here's a curriculum to use, then we better just go ahead and get it while we've got money to get it. And so they just came out, last week with the list of 5 vendors and specific programs. Number 1 on the list is Amplify, and we already own it, and we actually have it K through 8. And so we're early adopters, early implementation, and so that's putting us a little ahead of the game. But that's extremely expensive stuff, and there are resources that they have right now just for elementary. If we were going to buy workbooks from them, it's about $18,000 a year to buy workbooks just for our 330 elementary kiddos. We are not purchasing that right now. We've been using PDFs and doing some of our own internal printing, because not everything in that workbook is going to be needed to do instruction. Plus, about 80 pages of the 216 are actually blank white pages. So, wasteful printing costs there. And yes, I had to go through page by page to see because we are looking like, should we print our own, because we would have printing rights because of the program that we bought. But yeah, so that $150 to go full circle, that's not gonna go very far, that's not even one content. And so they are putting a lot of schools in an interesting position. So I'm not sure what the solution is on that or where they're gonna go. I just know right now we're saying thank you for the money and we're paying our bills and, you know, stockpiling the new pieces so that we're set for the next few years. There's our long story, and Science of Reading is working, so.
Very good. Well, you know, this is sort of a new program, so it's hard to say how it's gonna work out. Okay, let's see, let's wrap this up here, I think, let's see, anything else we need to mention? No E-rate, we haven't got any E-rate yet. I know last year we had 135,000 budgeted, and same this year, and I don't think we've got anything today. Haven't got anything for the safety program, but we're pretty sure we'll get that
Yeah.
sometime before the end of the year.
We've not made any, and I've got a report that's due tomorrow, but we've not really made the expenses yet.
Oh,
Because,
okay.
we've done some of our matching, but that's not what we get reimbursed for. And we've not really made any of the big purchases. I just signed today with Raptor. We finally have gotten that all figured out, which is gonna be our visitor management. We're also adding a volunteer management piece on it as well as our emergency response. And so that will be probably a February expense of about $20,000, but that will also be a reimbursable expense at the end of the quarter from the school safety grant. We did receive, I think, about 17.6 in E-rate last week.
Good, okay.
17,564, I wanna say. And that's the other one, you know, looking at the budget where we never know which program of the E-rate we're gonna get. Are they just going to give us a disbursement or do we get a discount on?
Yeah, you said that one is sort of multi-faceted,
Yeah.
so.
So, who knows where
Who
we're at on
knows?
that, but I do
Well, we
know
got something.
we got
That's
something in the
good.
bank, I think
That's
last week.
17, okay. Let's see, I think enough said there. Looking ahead into the month of January, January is always a great month for us because that is the month we get our second installment of the state innovation grant. And a little tutorial in my pre-meeting reviews. That's, I believe, virtually the only grant that significantly large grant that we get cash to us up front. Now, there's parameters for us to spend it, but the purpose of that was to, as I recall, to level the playing field between what items are covered financially. They're financially funded for charter, public charter, and then public school. So that's a big one, and let's see, it looks like we're supposed to get 18,000 more, I think, for the year. I'm not sure that was showing in our spreadsheet, but again, 18, I mean, it's still a very large amount, and it's going to be very, very welcome. So with that amount of money coming in, it'll all be spent, because we have to on most of these grants. I mean, I don't think we're even allowed to hold any in reserve, are we?
Not
Yeah,
very much,
not
yeah.
much. So we should be looking at about 452,000, let's say, addition to our cash on hand at the end of January. Of course, most of that will be spent, so we know we're projecting at the end of the year, we're going to be about, what was that? Oh, there it is, about 461,000, which seems a little low for comfort for me, but again, we're only halfway through the year, and we'll just have to see how things shake out. Then I did drop in the numbers on outstanding collectibles. The total is 518,000, split between active, which I'm assuming means they're actually students here currently, about 105,000. Inactive is they're graduated, no longer here, about 413,000. And at that point, that's all I have. I'm gonna let you guys delve into the collections aspect, so.
One thing that I just wanted to mention, we
Sure.
talked about the winners and the losers.
Right. Don't like that term?
What?
Do you not like that term?
No, I'm fine with that.
Oh,
I just
okay.
want to clarify, so when you were
Sure.
talking about like in November, a winter that we received more in federal special ed than what we expected, here's the deal, is you see in December that the budget equals what we received. Well, the reason is because we know what we're gonna get the next month, and we put it, when we do the budget in the beginning, it's just spread over 12 months. The problem is our services are not evenly spent. So they're spent, so we spend the money, and then we receive the money the next month. So more than likely, in October, we have those expenses, but we receive the money in November. So that's not really winter, so to speak, it's
Yeah.
just what it is. Where the summer school is definitely a winner,
Yeah.
because we did receive more than we had budgeted. And the same goes with the textbook reimbursement, that was additional money. So I
Okay.
just wanted to clarify that technically isn't a winner or a loser.
Yeah, well, good point. I made, again, I'm always tinkering. I think this is a little easier, at least for me to read than what I've had before. But, we will continue to try to, make this very accurate and also easy to read and understand for all of us. So I'll may want to make some more changes on that. So, that's all I have.
All right, does anyone have, thank you, David, does anyone have any questions or such?
I will just make one comment that we actually did get our innovation grant deposit today.
Oh.
It was 597,100.
7,100.
Just so you have that to kind of tinker around with too. What did you say? 597,100.
All right, thank you for that. All right, if not, we'll go ahead and a motion to.
Well, let's see,
approve.
do we need collections yet before the motion? Well, no, I have a separate agenda item.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I need to shut up here.
It's all good.
Shut up here, sorry.
I was gonna at least go ahead and approve our board treasurer report that we had this evening. If we can go put that up in motion first.
I will make a motion to approve the November and December monthly financial treasury report.
I'll second.
All right. We have a motion and second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Dave. And as always, thank you for keeping Plus Team for that, for all the hard work on the finances. Next thing we'll talk about is the collections and bad debt, as we talked about on the minute. So we'll go ahead and get forward with that.
Okay, well, this hopefully won't take too long to discuss. As we know, and we have bounced around for a very long time, at least the last 8.5 years that I've been in this position, we have made several attempts to pursue collections and to go through processes on some of the bad debt or unpaid fees that we have not received for a long period of time. We have not had success hardly at all with any of that. And we are at a point right now where it is time for us to write off the bad debt, evaluate where we are on that, and then move forward. It's not anything where that is expected income that is in our cash flow that we're going to be missing out on. It's not going to be a hit against us, but it is going to clean up some of our issues just, from that standpoint. Some of that bad debt goes all the way back to 2009, 2010. And so basically what our recommendation is to basically empower plus myself to review, go through, and do what we need to do to clear that off and present that with the board. That doesn't mean, I know there's always debate with stuff like this, right? Well, they owe that money. It's never gonna come.
At this point, is that right?
And while we do have families that have paid all the fees that they were able and have paid all of it, they don't owe anything. I know that there's people look at that with an equitable lens or a quality thing, and I don't have an answer to that. But I do know, looking at the financial situation of a lot of our families and the increase in poverty just in our general area, that there's not a lot that can be done. Even looking at the legislators where they have passed legislation now, no textbook fees, and they're giving us $150 per student. That still, there are still fees that we have to have where, if a computer gets damaged or those parts, right? That's not something that is necessarily just going to be written off, because that was destruction of property and something that we did have to repurchase or go through. But basically, we're at that point where we just need to move on and reevaluate that. I know that we've been looking at the student fees that we have been charging, and we've cleaned that up significantly, right? To be able to charge just for those bare minimum, our emergency notification systems and those things. But beyond that, there aren't really any larger fees to charge. So the request is for the board to authorize PT Plus and CEO to go through and do the bad debt write-offs and report back.
Now, the big question, at least, I think the big question is, how will that be handled and how will that affect our financial results? I'm assuming it will be on the accrual statements only, or?
It's not on the accrual statements. It's not accounted for on the financials at all.
Okay,
It never
yeah.
has been.
And the auditors don't really do much with looking at that either.
No, and they don't bring to the other schools either.
Yeah.
I mean, this is standard of what all the schools do, because it's so arbitrary if you're going to receive it. And I mean, I'll be honest, other schools have the same situation. I mean, it's the
No, I'm
same,
sure, yeah.
economic, socioeconomic backgrounds on a lot of them, and they don't have that capability, so they end up writing them off as well.
And the auditors, this is a topic I believe we discussed with Kyla and CLA last year, and they said basically, having the board approve that and then us just going through it, where it does not impact the audit or the financials, because we do not have it as anticipated income or any of that thing. So at least from CLA's standpoint or from Matt's area, there's nothing.
Okay, well, that's good. Very good. Yeah, I hate to write 400,000 some off at the bottom line, but at some point you have to be realistic, I guess. So.
And we work with 3 other different auditors, and their viewpoint's the same.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we
Not just their
hated to
opinion.
bring that up in much detail for several years, because we thought, let sleeping dogs lie or something to that effect. But yeah, I guess that it was a relief to find out that, common problem, everybody had it, so it wasn't really going to penalize us. So I guess we're ready to make a motion then? I will be glad to make a motion then. I make a motion that the board approve CEO and Bookkeeping Plus to review all outstanding collection accounts, focusing primarily on the accounts classified as inactive, and at their discretion and wisdom, writing off those that they feel should be written off at this present time. And then I think at the next board meeting, then at some point the board would like to know what the final conclusion was. But whatever number you decide, I don't think is going to be a point of contention here. So does that satisfy what you guys need? And I'm sure Angie's very good at cleaning up our
So we've got a report.
motion language there, makes it sound better than it does.
Long motion.
Counting on her again.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. We'll go ahead and move forward with that. Thank you for the update. Thank you, Bookkeeping Plus team.
See you guys.
And you guys too.
Thank you.
All right, we'll continue on for the rest of the meeting here. All right, next thing on the agenda here is old business. Designated board meetings date change proposal.
Okay, so as discussed at the last board meeting, there was a proposal to change our board meeting dates moving forward, starting with the month of April. That will allow us, because of how complex financials have become because of the multitude of grants and other variables in it.
In the audits, there could be going on
Ever-ending
at
audits.
the same time, yeah, so.
Yes, which amazingly enough, I got hit with another one last week.
Another one?
Oh, yeah, like,
Yes.
Who?
thank you guys, thank
Only
you.
run out of agencies.
You would think, I'd been bored for half a second, so why not jump right into it? So with that, the proposal was starting with what would be determined our March board meeting, moving that 1 week past, which would mean like April 2nd would replace the March 26th meeting, May 7th would replace the April 30th, June 4th would replace May 28th, and then July 2nd would replace June 27th. That would, and Bookkeeping Plus, oh, they're still there.
Yeah, it's good.
They fully support this.
Okay.
And that will allow us to have more accurate financials as well as a little bit longer time to review and go through them. You know, some of the challenges that we have, that we are doing coding or journal entries a month or two after the fact, which then that impacts grant reimbursements, all the categories that we're looking at are extracurricular accounts. And so this will give us the time to basically shore everything up and be better prepared to go through it. So that was pretty much the only.
Now, I think maybe the only drawback is that makes the numbers for evaluating less time. Am I correct on that?
I mean,
In
that-
other words, here we are at the end of January, and we have just evaluated, well, 2 months, but specifically December, because of the latest projection. So the next, okay, when we meet and we've had to bump into the year into the first before, no big deal, I guess, but at the April meeting, then we'd be looking at February, no change, right?
Right.
Okay, yeah. I know in past, that's been a long debate since I've been on the board. It takes a while for you guys to not only deal with the audits, but also churn this stuff out. And you've always told us, well, you know, if you don't need them that quick, we can get stuff to you quicker that you can use. But then you lose the timely aspect, which I guess is the purpose of the board oversight, is if we've got a problem or a red flag, we want to know it now, not 3 months after it happened and could have been corrected. So, okay, sounds good to me, I guess.
Good with
I
me.
think also in general, this is for everyone to review their calendars, but as well as just, I think this aligns with, of course, what we need financially and for the operation of the school. So if not, we can go ahead and put this into a vote. And so we can get this tabled or actually completed as well there too, so the rest of the team can move forward with it. All right, so we'll go ahead and put a motion up to approve the designated board meeting date change proposal as was just presented. Thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve the meeting change date for the board meeting from the end of the month to the beginning of the month.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
And we'll put those new dates on our online under the directory. So I usually pull that one up to see what the date is anyhow. So
Everyone was able to review their schedules, make sure it's all.
All right. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carried. So now we'll, Joe, if you can ensure that all of us get the new board dates and times, we would truly appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you. All right, next thing, new business. First thing on the agenda, the APA spotlight from the APA elementary team.
Hey,
You know that they're celebrities.
they're the ones that were getting any applause, aren't they?
They bring pictures
We
of
never
cute little
voted for
kids.
CJ, I can't understand that.
You know, we're going back, because we never.
RJ.
Go ahead, yeah.
I said you guys bring pictures of cute kids,
Oh,
so.
yeah.
Now who can?
Set the stage. You're okay.
And is that gonna be
As long as you don't move.
behind me?
okay.
No,
Right there, okay.
Pretty much, I was gonna say I'm still done, and
Right,
that, now
did you
that's
see that?
obsolete.
You don't see the screen, will you?
You know, went through all that trouble.
Good, go ahead.
Ryan's like, hey, couldn't you get a big TV?
Hey, Dave, you can turn that around, point him at the screen if you want.
Oh.
So he can see it.
Yeah.
Is that to just, There you go. yeah.
Thank you.
Bless you.
Good evening. As always, we appreciate this time that you allow for us to do a quick little presentation. We promise to be precise and a little succinct, because I think last time we presented, we spent a little extra time, so.
Awesome.
No, you didn't.
I think I jumped in and then paused the
Okay,
issue.
cool. Good, thank you, sir.
So just a little update on our enrollment numbers. So we had 316 little kiddos enrolled in person. We have 14 online students in the virtual academy. So that brings our total for the elementary up to 330 as of today. So that is, well, I think it'll switch a little bit. I think we had one more go virtual.
You're gonna get two more brand new kids.
Then there we go.
Excellent. So 332 total.
Three new.
Excellent, well, the more the merrier. So that's our updated enrollment numbers. One of the major highlights since the last time we presented to you in September, we had our literacy night. So these were a big event pre-COVID, and we had a major break due to the pandemic. So this was our first one in many years, my first one too, coming over to the elementary. So we planned a literacy night in December that tied into our holiday shop, where this is a great event for families to come in, and it's essentially all themed around literacy. So they played snowy reading games, they did literacy night activities with their families, because that's a key component there, that they're part of our learning model, they're part of that whole child development. They played an integral role in that. And they played a little scavenger hunt. So we had a snow globe there, so you'll see one of our pictures there, a paper snow globe where kids could take pictures, and we took some pictures throughout the event. So it's just a really nice way to engage with families, and you'll see this semester we have something similar coming, but it's all math themed, and you know, that is my domain. I love both of them, but I really love the math as well. All right, so that's one of our highlighted events from last semester. Moving forward, so we know that every year there's a time of transition, and time of change can be hard, especially for our kids and our families who have been around the elementary for many, many years. So I am chairing the 5th grade transition from our building in the elementary over to this building as they transition into middle school. So there's a lot of collaboration going to happen with many different stakeholders between buildings in various different capacities. So we're talking with teachers, we're talking with our teachers, because they know our 5th graders best. Maybe they can help give us recommendations to schedule kids in this building. We're also talking with our 6th grade teachers to see what they want coming up from 5th grade, and maybe 4th grade, we can focus in on some of those behaviors too. We're talking with cadets, what do they want to know? Because they're the people we serve. We're talking with families, because they're the ones going to have to help navigate the change from a home perspective. And also various different resources such as like our IT department, our scheduling departments, and all kinds of different things that go into the transition. There's around 35 different people being tapped in various different ways. What we're working towards is a family info night, bringing in our 5th grade families to this building so we can begin that separation between elementary and as they move to this building, and then a shadowing experience. How do we get our 5th graders over to this building so they can experience a day in the life of a middle schooler, so they're not, so they don't experience such a big culture shock. We know there's going to be one, there naturally is, but we're trying to mitigate those as best as we can. So I think the next time we present to you will be next fall, so I will report back in September how this 5th grade transition went, so we can continue to improve it going forward.
So would you do like the tours, shadowing and stuff with the students? Would it be individual students?
There's all kinds of different
Or would you
ideas.
do groups?
Right, so there's all kinds of different ideas. So in years past, this is my first year being involved in the 5th to 6th grade transition. So like last year, they brought over all 50 of them, and they did whole group tours, maybe whole group meetings in the cafeteria or in the pit. That is an option. We're also exploring maybe more individualized, personalized options where we bring over 10 students a day and they can stay the entire day and get a more realistic viewpoint of what the middle school is like. But again, I'm not in the classroom over here, so what does that look like? Talking with the right people. So we actually have a meeting tomorrow morning with leadership team here with Mr. Fraley and I to see what that could look like, because I don't want to be the dictator of all things. This is how it's going to go, but we're open to different ideas. I would really like the realest experience possible. I want them to experience moving classes, want them to experience opening lockers, want them to experience the more, you can go to the bathroom without a teacher going with you over here in this building. So those freedoms need to be introduced.
Opening lockers, that's still a big deal.
That's a big deal, because at our school.
It was when I was at that age, I
Yeah,
remember.
because at our school, we have lockers, but we don't have locks on them. So that's a whole new idea for the kids, and we have.
Well, that way they can steal each other blind then.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. So we're open to what that looks like, so we're interested in hearing various feedback on what's reasonable, especially in the month of May. Month of May is crazy for everybody, so the earlier the better.
Yeah, and I do applaud the elementary team as well as this team, the secondary team, for having that conversation early. Like, it's happening right now, but this has been happening at least for about 6 weeks or more, because we know that that is a huge switch. We have tried it in a few different ways, and we do have our SSC department does an additional transition to help kind of with that soft handoff. But especially looking at where kids are developmentally now and socially, given everything from the last few years, I think it is very reassuring for those families as well as the kiddos to be coming over here with kind of that elementary counterpart to help walk them through as well. So very excited to see what comes out of this and what works and maybe what we try differently the next time.
Awesome.
All right, so obviously we're all aware that, teachers shortage is a thing. We're trying to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to retain our staff. And then with the realization that at the elementary, we do know that we're going to have some turnover in a sense that as far as since I've been the principal, we've not had this type of turnover, but it's all life related. Babies, 3 babies, right? Babies, 2 retirements possibly, and so we know we have some transition there. So in order to retain who we do have, Rachel, our new HR director, she has been doing stay interviews, and she was able to do that with all of the staff, teachers and support staff at the elementary within the last couple weeks. I think that was really impactful to get she hasn't given us all the information back, but she said that those were really good and impactful as far as really seeing what the desires are of our staff and the reasons why they would want to stay here at APA. So we are working in conjunction with Rachel to figure out other, besides obviously we all like our paycheck, other ways to keep people around, fringe benefits, types of things like that.
Espresso machine.
Yes, right, we just got that, right, absolutely.
Thank you.
And then something that I've been doing for a while, and Michael will start doing these with me this year, I do twice a year, I do one-on-ones with all of my staff members, just to get a feel of how they are feeling, what they're looking for. So it's a similar approach to the stay interviews, but then also that involves goal setting and seeing what resources that they might need going further. going farther. As far as trying to then bring staff in for next year, we do have our BSU and AU student teachers this year. We have 4 or 5? 4. And we do think at least one of those 4 are interested in joining the team next year, so that could be a possible a way for us to start filling some of those positions, these relationships we've built with BSU. And this year, really, at least at the elementary, the AU experience with student teachers is new for us, and that has been proven to be a new relationship that's going fairly well. We are going to go to BSU Cardinal Job Fair. I don't remember what month that is. Do you remember? March, maybe? Okay. Thank you, Joe. Okay. So that'll be an opportunity for us to recruit as well. And then one of the things that Jill has always been invested in is that homegrown approach, obviously right here, Michael Stoudemire, the homegrown approach, where we cultivate our students and then we cultivate them to come back and work for us. I mean, and so we are working toward that, and that actually, hopefully one of our previous alums, Maddie Stam, hopefully will be joining us next year. We've had an interview with her and she would like to come back. And so trying to find some ways to any of our staff members who maybe our support staff, our assistants who are wanting to be teachers, trying to find alternate routes for licensure and giving them opportunities to grow so that we can also retain them. And then we do have, we've done onboarding in the past, but we now have a more robust new teacher onboarding that will be coming in July. And Hornocker, Jessica, will take the lead on that, but Michael and I will be involved in that as well. Yes.
So you were talking about the student teachers. How long has the elementary had like student teachers in there, and have you had any opportunity to, like, have we already hired some that were
several,
student teachers?
several. And
Okay.
for example, April King, she was one of our student teachers.
Derek Kramer is one of
Derek
our
Kramer.
original student teachers.
was she?
Yep,
Real, that was over here, yeah.
Recent ones, though, would be Michaela Main. She's one of our first grade teachers. So we do have a pretty high percentage of retaining.
3, right? Couch, Barbara,
Yeah,
and
Couch,
Shane.
So right now, in the elementary right now, within the past 3 years, 2 years, we have retained
Good.
3 of those. So we do feel like that's a fairly good opportunity for
And
us to
then like some of our
develop that.
students I know are like student teachers also, like our juniors and seniors,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
so
Yep,
that's
that
great.
whole homegrown thing as well.
Right.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
then
We're
you get
starting
them
down
like,
this, can't you hold a pencil? Let's go. Touch class.
Yeah, all right.
We're gonna get started.
Is that good,
That's
Angie?
great,
Okay,
yes.
all right.
I have a question too.
Yes,
It's a pretty basic one, but I've never heard of a stay interview before. I think I can figure out what it is, but I mean, is it, you just call everybody in one by one with HR and do an
give
interview?
them 15, 20 minutes and
What makes you come back?
Yeah,
Okay.
what else what can we do? What would be?
Interesting.
How do you feel valued? How do you feel valued?
Okay, that's a new one on
Besides
me.
money.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, and I believe those stay interviews started this week at this
At this building,
building
yes.
as well.
Yes.
nice.
And, you know, she does preface it, obviously, we all would love more money, right? But let's be real. And so I know some of the things that, I'm not kidding about the espresso machine, that is something that came out of the discussion, that they
And a new
really
Keurig.
like access to that, or a Keurig over the elementary. And so I went to BJ's Warehouse and we now have an espresso machine and
Yeah.
a Keurig over there, right? And some of them are really, it's not like a huge thing, right? Like I'm not gonna storm out the door because I didn't get my Keurig. But it's, hi, I expressed kind of a random need.
Mhm.
I was heard and this happened, right?
Yeah.
We have one right now, this may be pregnancy related, but she wants ice. The little ice nuggets, access to ice nuggets, right?
Yep.
But then it was like, oh, well, we have other people, right? Because there is an ice machine here because of the training room. Most people don't have access to it. Over the elementary, you know, they don't really have a true ice machine either.
Right.
And so small things like that are where we can make it a little bit easier. That goes a long way with our teachers.
Yeah.
And the fact that we're getting that feedback in real time and being able to make a few adjustments here or there. Obviously, some of them are really big ticket items that they love, but you know, we can work through that. But a lot of it is value, being able to be heard,
Yes.
right? That's what we all want. We want to be heard, we want to be seen.
Yes.
And that's what we always want from our teachers, staff, everybody, right? Because we are, that sounds very High School Musical, we're all in it together, right? And it's hard. Being in a school has been very hard for the last several years, especially. We've had an increase in some escalated behaviors of kiddos, right? They're things that none of us were prepared for in college. And so these interviews really, like, it's been very valuable.
Yeah.
And so that's something with Rachel, our new HR director, that she said, hey, I want to do these. Very cool.
Yeah.
Don't give me names, but give me like things. And she's being very protective of that, except for the ones with the pregnancy in the eyes.
Yes.
I'm gonna get it in writing that she will return after pregnancy if I get decisive. She mandated.
Well, great. That's great to hear.
Yeah, it's been positive, and I think it's helped establish some trust with Rachel as well, because right, HR typically not wanting to interact with HR, but that's created a positive relationship there too. So, thank you. All right, as we look toward next year and trying to figure out how we are going to place our elementary students in classes next year, one of the things that we've noticed this year that we do have one split level class, but for the most part, we have gone back to kindergarten, first, second, third, fourth, fifth. And so that has been positive in many ways. However, for example, right now we only have 2 fifth grade teachers. And so spreading some of the love out as far as some of our cadets are concerned, that has proven to be difficult. And so looking at class placements for next year, the realization that split levels probably need to come back so that we can divide some of our cadets in a more equitable way, and also with that comes the challenge of how Jill has talked about the science of reading, amplify that new curriculum. One of the biggest reason we moved away from the split levels was because we wanted to make sure that we were doing Amplify with Fidelity. And so trying to make sure that the teachers did not feel burdened to think, oh, I have to teach a second grade whole Amplify lesson that could last 90 to 120 minutes, and then having to do it with fourth graders. And so trying to figure out the best approach to that. And so Jessica Hornacher is actually spending a little bit of time in some classrooms and spending time in the first grade classroom where she basically said she's going to put her money where her mouth is and try to figure out how we make Amplify work within a split level classroom or within the groupings that we do in the rotational model. And so that is obviously going to be a challenge for us to try to figure out how we're going to make that curriculum piece work with the behavior needs and the emotional needs of our students. So that will be a big piece. Like Michael said, he's taking on the task of the fifth grade transition. I will be spearheading the class placements, but obviously with involvement from the elementary leadership team. And so one of the suggestions that we're looking at is possible doing some departmentalization in a small scaled way, or maybe a second grade teacher as one of them teaches all the Amplify, the reading language arts pieces, and another of them teaches all of our math, science, or social studies, things like that. So right now we're just in the developmental stages trying to figure out how we're going to make that work.
When I was in elementary school, certain teachers taught certain reading levels.
Sure, yes. So there would be a similar.
So we would change classes first thing in the morning for that.
Yeah, so a similar type of feel, where they would still have their homeroom teacher. We don't want them to feel like they're in middle school already, but giving opportunity for them to have some adjustment on who they're spending time with and where they're getting their instruction from. So that's a big endeavor, trying to figure out how to make that work, but we are starting on it earlier this year than we typically do, so hopefully that gives us some leverage to make some positive changes there. Any questions on that? Okay, thank you. And then this is the last slide, just highlighting some of the calendar events that we have this year. Obviously, you can read all of those yourself, but some of the ones that I wanted to highlight, Michael alluded to the Math Madness piece. That is, okay, I could be wrong, Jill will correct me. Since I've been principal, I don't think we've done the Math Madness thing, and so.
We did. We had a math, because we did a lit night and a math night, and
each semester.
COVID.
Okay, all right.
So you were supposed to have a math night in spring of 2020, and then
that shut down. So bringing that back again, as well as that literacy night, like Michael said, that literacy night was really impactful. And I think one of the things that we've done better at the elementary in the past couple of years is being more proactive, working in committees, working toward planning ahead. And so Jessica Hornacher is spearheading that, but she has a committee of people helping her with this. The EL family engagement piece, I think that's really important for our EL families, so that'll be something in April. And then looking at April 11th, the Aerospace Education Day, that's always a great opportunity for our CAP guys to come down and bring some of our CAP cadets down from the pre-academy and spend time with our elementary kids. They usually build some type of rocket or some type of something, as some usually tangible something that has to do with the aerospace piece, and so that's always a highlight and something exciting. And then obviously honoring our 5th graders as they get ready to transition over, our kindergartners as they get ready to go into 1st grade, and then field day is always a big hit with everybody. So that's just kind of the pieces that we have to look forward to. I think that's our last slide, so if you have other things you'd like to ask, we'd be happy to answer.
Okay, and this, I mean, I don't know if this is for Jill or for you guys, but April 8th with April the 8th coming up with the solar eclipse. Sure. Like everybody's asking, oh, you know, all the schools are going to be closed and everybody's going to mounds, and I'm like, no, that ain't happening. Do we have a plan? Do you guys have a plan with your elementary
Well, I can
kids?
speak and then Commandant could echo.
Okay.
We were actually, I think one of our 2-hour delay days was a couple got canceled, and maybe we had the closing day. So we do, so Jill has orchestrated a meeting for us to have some conversations. I know she has some ideas about it, and then if I'm being frank, like part of the challenge that we will be trying to figure out would be if we have a normal school day, or if we have a school day that might be modified a little bit. We know on 2-hour delay days, our elementary kids do not do well with the change in routine. And in fact, like, it was quite a nightmare the last 2-hour delay we had because of behavior. The calendar isn't, or the daily schedule isn't the same for them, and so it does impact them. And so I know that Jill's got some ideas, but then she's bringing the committee together for us to kind of discuss what the best approach is for that.
Yeah, and we've talked about that in the board meetings about potential ideas for it. Obviously, as we get closer to the event, you know, I'm gonna just say nobody's got the writing. I know that it is a historic event that could be an incredible learning opportunity for our kids. It'd be a great way to do some family engagement. There's a ton there. But we do know that we do have families that are actually a little nervous, maybe even scared would be actually the appropriate word, because there's going to be such a convergence of people as well. You know, I know it's 3 minutes of darkness, but that's going to have an impact. And so that's part of, you know, getting the team together and looking at, you know, wow, when we were first discussing this, some of these things seem so cool, and we've got 2,000 eclipse viewing glasses. We are prepared. We bought those, I think, in June, May, somewhere in there. But also, how can we truly manage that? What logistics can our community actually handle? Because we do know there are a lot of people that want to go to mounds and observe it on the actual mounds. I have no clue how they are going to navigate that. And so we do have some considerations to make, as well as, especially with something as unique and historic as this is, that we want to give voice and choice to families, right? Put people at their comfort level, but that also applies to our adults too, because we all have families, we all have other things that we need to navigate as well. So that's part of bringing that team together to look at it, see if there are things that we can modify or just, you know, adapt to the circumstance, because obviously everything is continuing to change, and October was supposed to be our trial run, and then we had bad weather, so you know, we didn't get to play with that eclipse. Or partial eclipse.
It should be fun. I'm a big avid space fan, so I've been counting down this day since August of 2017 when the last one was. And I drove all the way down to Tennessee and all that stuff to watch it, so it's a very exciting time, thankfully.
And I didn't know if like curriculum is gonna change for some of the classrooms or something.
It's just extensions of it, right?
Yeah,
so
extensions of science.
Lead up to it. How does it work?
Yeah, and whether we are in person that day or we're e-learning or some kind of hybrid or something, right? All of our teachers are excited and trying to find cool projects to get involved with and everything. And so, you know, it's not gonna just be like, hey, nobody's paying attention to it, right? This happened, but it's not part of it. Because we have such a focus on STEM now, and again, this is kind of cool science and things to work through. Our teachers are pretty brilliant on some of the stuff they wanna track. So we'll see how some of it comes to fruition. Someone can be like, hi, we can't do that. We're not going on top of the building. That was proposed to me, and I said, that's, we are not taking middle schoolers on top of our. Yeah, sometimes I just.
So with 911.
are awful. And it does, we are very blessed that both of our active buildings are right next to the fire station. So we do have quick response times on stuff like that. But they might be busy that day.
Any other questions?
I want to go to the talent show.
Come on.
I would say you should probably be.
Yeah,
you probably should, yeah.
Do some board recruitment there.
I hope you were gonna comment on the field day there, May 23rd. I'll reach out.
Run.
Well, thank you for your time, we appreciate it.
Everything you do. Thank you.
All right.
Awesome. Great job, gentlemen. You are off the hook. You are free to go.
All right.
I will catch you up here.
I'm here, yes. Thank you.
You don't want out there. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Well, thank you to the elementary team. Appreciate that. Appreciate our lot today.
They're not quite out.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks, Ryan, for the presentation and great work that you guys are doing over there in the building. I truly appreciate it.
Appreciate you, thank you.
Thank you. All right, next thing on the agenda is the IDOE Early Literacy Achievement Grant Distribution.
Yes, so this was a fun surprise. Our legislators, because of the new emphasis on reading instruction, the state goal is to have 95% of third graders at or above grade level by 2027. That goal was set prior to the pandemic, and it is still one that they are actively pursuing, and they're putting their money where their mouth is in some elements of this. And so the legislators put through a grant program that basically it's a one-time cash stipend. Anybody that is a teacher or instructional aide or interventionist for grades K through 3 during the 22-23 school year that will actively still be employed on the date of our distribution, they are going to get a cash stipend divided up by whatever allocation they gave us. And so how they determine the allocations, they looked at performance data, they looked at enrollment data, they looked at growth, they looked at, I feel like they looked at the complexity index as well, given the populations that we serve. And they sent us notification that we are actually getting $16,688.08 to distribute within our K through 3 instructional team. And so basically I just have to get the board to approve that distribution. Once they gave us until March to do the distribution. What I would like is for us to put it on our next payroll, which will be the February 16th. And currently going through and making sure that we have every single person that we know is responsible in some part for that reading instruction. So that does include the classroom teachers, but that also includes the gen ed instructional aides, that includes the ELL instructional aides, it would include our dyslexia specialists, it would include our special ed department staff that was involved with those grade levels and that content instruction. It includes instructional coach, And then it also will include, we have an interventionist as well. So that's a good portion of the elementary. And basically, I just need approval to do a distribution of the IDOE Early Literacy Achievement Grant on February 16th to all identified parties.
I make a motion to provide the cash stipend to all of the people that are qualified for the IDOE Early Literacy Achievement Grant on the February 16th payroll.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
How many are we looking at?
Right now, I think we're looking at about 16 people, but it's a good portion of people that are in that building. So I've gone through the list twice with Adam thus far, but I'm going to go back again because things like this, especially because it's not as easily identifiable with the teacher appreciation grant, right? Here, X, Y, and Z, and here's the rating, that's how you do it. So I gotta make sure that there is no position that we're like, oh wait, they were during that time period with that. The DOE does allow for prorating, so if we have a teacher that joined us in January, then that doesn't mean they do like the full share of the teacher that had the whole year. And this is one that I was surprised, so hey, I like these surprises.
Yeah.
A little extra money given to us, and we can just give it to the humans that are doing the work.
Yep, it's perfect.
But I'll provide a full list and accounting for it with the February.
All right, we have a motion and a second already. Any other further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Joe, for that, and congratulations to all those who will be receiving those monetaries from that distribution as well.
You're gonna be really excited because they don't know about it.
Yes.
Unless they
Next thing on the agenda is the
That is
surplus
true.
inventory designation.
Okay, so this goes back with the CEO report section that apparently I left part out, sorry. Looking at our bus situation, I feel like Dave Bradford would love for me to re-emphasize that being the transportation director as part of his position is gonna kill him at some point, because our buses are a little interesting. So our bus number 3, which is our original big yellow bus, is something that I am putting to the board to declare as surplus inventory because we have now had to decommission this bus. I spoke with Mike Lacey on how we do this process because when it is purchased with public funds, we do have to, if it is surplus inventory, turn that back over to the public for possible purchase. Typically that is done through an auction and sales notification in the newspaper, but the first step is to get it declared surplus. He has recommended there is a local auctioneer, I believe that is Don Smock Auctions, and they handle everything once we declare surplus inventory. So the issue with bus number 3, we have had it for about 12 years now. Since we purchased it, we have had to pour a ton of money into repairs. It has been an ongoing battle. The most recent is we noticed a little bit of water underneath it. Well, that wasn't water, that was fuel. And there is a small, very small, maybe about a dime size right now, hole that was rusted out from in the fuel tank. And so it was leaking fuel. We took it, had it towed to the repair shop to assess, and the repair and diagnostic was going to be north of $6,000. And we're just at a point now where we're pouring money into something that's not
Yeah,
worth
I think
it.
rusting inside and
Yeah.
shot.
Well, and we also have, what happened to bus number 2 for us from our old small bus, mini buses, is the floor started to rust and get soft in some spots, and then that's eventually what we had to decommission. Looking at bus 3, we were starting to see the very beginning of that as well, so we knew there were going to be some issues coming up. And so our one of our bus providers, transportation providers, is Dee Weber, and she and her husband, who is also a bus mechanic, have a kind of information, right? It's a big network of people with used buses, right? Especially at traditional public school, they have a bus replenishment plan, they have a certain cycle they have to get through. And so they were able to locate a couple buses, and they said, what's our maximum spend on this? And I said, if it's less than the repair, I don't see why, this is gonna be, it's gonna be a no-brainer for us. As long as we have its service record, we have everything, and it's clean as possible as it can be. And so they ended up, they were gonna go to Santa Claus, Indiana to get one, and then because someone had basically inherited a bus, then we had another person who had retired and needed to get rid of their bus, and then we had someone down in Evansville that was also, their father had retired and they were trying to take this bus because they were independent contractors through Evansville Community Schools. That's where we landed. So the bus number 3 is a 2002 Bluebird that had over 180,000 miles on it. Right now we can't start it up to see what that actual number is anymore, so it's just there. The bus that we purchased is a 2012 International bus, and it currently has 115,791 miles on it. One of the issues that we've always had with bus number 3, it never passes state police inspection on the first try. There's always some little thing that needs fixed or likes to really put on a show when we have inspection. And this bus passed on the first try without a doubt, anything, and it has gone on 10 trips so far, no issues whatsoever at all. The bus drivers are enjoying driving it, and it's a much smoother ride. And the kids have not had any complaints or anything like that. And so we spent $5,000, which is less than what that additional repair would be, and we got a new to us bus that seems already to have a much better lifespan ahead of it than bus 3. So officially for the surplus inventory, we do need to officially decommission bus number 2 as well as bus number 3 and declare them surplus inventory so that we can move forward to moving them back to the public.
Do we have 2 buses to decommission?
Yes, so bus number 2 was decommissioned several years ago. I guess I should say a few years ago. But the intent during that time period was looking at a community donation, but that organization went defunct, so we just have had this bus. And so for us to put it back to public good, which will remove it from the insurance we are paying for it, as well as it being property and other risks for us on things, we'll be able to move that to where it should be as well.
Okay, so it's already decommissioned, we just have to move them both to surplus?
Yes.
I was just trying to understand the process, okay.
This is maybe more of an aside, but just a general curiosity. Is it common to buy a bus for $5,000? I guess I thought they were considerably more than that. Is it?
No, not very common.
Okay.
Sometimes it happens because, like what we are dealing with, right? We are dealing with a family that just needs this bus to go.
Mm-hmm.
You can come across them. We were getting between $5,000 and $12,000 on what the people were trying to move it for, because of their life circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I was going to go to one of the actual bus depots to purchase, no
Right.
way.
Okay, that's what was made me curious. It seemed like it was a very low number.
Oh yeah, it's one of those things you're like, are we sure this title is clean? Have we really made sure this is not from a chop shop or something? But it is. It's passed all the background checks, I promise.
Excellent.
Yes, that's an excellent question there, Ryan. Especially when you see what we paid full price for that brand new minibus, which again, its price doubled in a year.
Yeah.
Thanks to quote unquote supply chain.
Yeah. Yep.
All right.
So we just need a motion?
Any other discussion regarding it? If not, we'll go ahead and put this up for a vote here. Thank you, Joe, for explaining that. So we put a motion for the surplus inventory designation for APA to go ahead and take care of what we need to do for the buses and or any other surplus inventory that we have for the school.
I'll make a motion with the bus 2 and 3 on the surplus inventory designation.
I'll second. Good.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you for that, and I look forward to hearing future updates on that and where we go from there. All right. Next thing on the agenda, any other further discussion we have this evening?
So,
All right. Can I get a motion to adjourn our January 30th, 2024 APA board meeting?
I'll make a motion to adjourn today's meeting.
I'll second.
You have a motion and a second. Further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you for everyone for attending this evening's board meeting. We truly appreciate it. And it looks like we have executive session we're going to go into next. Once again, thank you for everyone who are attending.